universe.
And who here is also amazed that Lord of the Rings somehow got better reception than The Hobbit, when overall I would say The Hobbit was probably the better made trilogy?
What? Okay, new video. The Lord of the Rings. So we're talking about, what is it really a wise idea for a studio? I mean, obviously it's profitable. Is it worth branching off of a franchise? Making a franchise is one thing. Branching off with a somewhat related franchise is a whole nother ball game. And I'd say 90% of people would agree that Lord of the Rings, Fellowship, Two Towers, Return of the King are the three strong movies. And you are actually going on record and saying that The Hobbit, the three Hobbit movies, are better than Lord of the Rings.
I am right there. Put my stamp on it.
Why?
I like The Hobbit better than The Lord of the Rings.
Well, why?
I just thought that the character involvement was a lot deeper. I mean, when you look at like the dwarves in certain scenes, you get a more emotional connection to them.
Do you?
Legolas and Gimli, like those were just flash in the pan characters that were just there for comic relief. You got Aragorn, who is just the typical brooding, like, I came from this family, my family failed, so I carry the burden on my back, even though I wasn't even close to being
let me
alive.
ask you a question. Other than Thorin, the main dwarf, who was your second favorite dwarf?
I don't remember their names.
Yeah,
off the top of
that's
my head.
exactly my point.
No, I
nobody knows
the
their names because nobody cares about them.
I haven't watched it in 2 years.
But that's the point. The other dwarves, first of all, there's too many. And that's not necessarily the movie's fault. That's the way the book's written. But there's too many for us to even remember. And they don't have enough screen time
What's cool
each.
about how they use the rest of the dwarves is it's not something that you're supposed to become invested in one certain dwarf. It is... They use them kind of like Band of Brothers uses their characters, where each one is there to touch on an aspect of them.
I see them functioning as a team, but Thorin gets a disproportionate amount of screen time.
Each one is a separate window into what they're going through in distinct moments. Like, they have conversations separately with other characters throughout the movie that give you a small window. Like, the old man gives you the window into where Thorin comes from, and then you have the one with the weird mustache who kind of touches on the more human side of what's going on.
I am going to say that I liked the Hobbit trilogy more, I would say, than the average person, but I don't think it's close to the quality of the original three. And my biggest reason for that, Gandalf is a strong character in both trilogies. I think Bilbo is actually more likable and more relatable than Frodo. Definitely. However, there's no Aragorn. There's even Legolas and Gimli have a lot of camaraderie between each other. We see very small snippets of those dwarves in The Hobbit, but they're so minimal, and they don't really impact the overarching story. Legolas is closely tied to everything that's happened, and the love story with the Legolas elf, the girl elf, who I can't remember her name, and then the dwarf. There's a love triangle. There's a love triangle in The Hobbit.
Well, it's not a triangle. It's two people who love each other and one dude who's just sitting there going, "Oh, shucks."
It's weird, and it has nothing to do with the plot. And then the villain, the White Orc,
love has something to do with every fucking plot.
You were just talking about how CG cheapens movies. The Hobbit has too much computer animation. The White Orc himself looks too fake.
Don't get me wrong. The whole Lord of the Rings, both of them are flawed when it comes to CG.
But The Hobbit is on a whole nother
Lord of the
level.
Rings would have been just as bad if it was made 10 years later like the other ones.
But it wasn't.
Yeah, but they would have. They were all on that. They used every bit of
the story of Lord of the Rings is more linear, but it's better. There's more depth to it. We discover destroyed kingdoms. We see
chopped out to the point where it just feels like the story is on fast forward the whole time.
We go to Gondor, and we see the destruction of Gondor. We see how Rohan has responded to Gondor's lack of support. We've seen all these politics at play. All these side characters like Faramir has a really cool arc, and he's not even a main character in the movie. And Boromir, again, has an interesting arc where he tries to take the ring, then he regrets it. He's known for, his loyalty. He becomes corrupted. Faramir has a similar thing, but handles it better. There are no side arcs like that because there's already too many main characters. And I loved Smaug, and I thought he was a great villain, but the White Orc was a shitty villain. We don't know anything about him. The only thing we know is very cheap narrative that's just voiced over in the beginning of the movie. The Lord of the Rings has much more depth, better characters, better visuals, better arcs. The Hobbit has very cool moments, perhaps some of the best out of the 6 movies, but it is hardly on the same level as The Lord of the Rings. And the Academy recognized that.
I've rewatched the Hobbit movies. I changed the channel as fast as humanly fucking possible if Lord of the Rings come on. Been there, done that, don't want to watch it again.
Why? Is it just too boring?
Yeah. Doesn't pull me in, man.
Well, I would love to hear what you guys think.
Oh, do tell.
Because I'm thinking I'm probably going to get some support on that one.
Dude, they already don't like me.
What do you think?
Have you read the comments? They're pretty vicious. I mean, those movies, though they left a little bit at the end to be desired, was still a great story, and it captured the hearts and minds of so many.